Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj, and today we have Shelley Martinez with us. Shelley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. How are you doing today?
I'm going awesome. How are you?
Fantastic.
Okay, so for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yes. My name is Shelley Martinez, and I work with anxiety and high functioning anxiety, primarily with women. So I call it Stop the Spin, and it's particularly for high achieving women who look like they've got it all together, but inside is a different story. Inside, they feel like they're really falling apart. And I help them to get past that, often in the case of working with their businesses so that they can really scale out, achieve what they want to achieve, meet their dreams and their goals.
Okay, that's awesome. So, how do you get started into working and helping women rewire their brain and transform their life?
I actually am someone who struggled with anxiety for a long time myself. I had anxiety since I was a child, and even my kindergarten teacher told me at one point that I was going to get ulcers. I'm sure that I was driving her crazy because I was such an anxious kid, I'm sure. I had no idea that other people didn't feel that way all the time until she pointed that out, and I didn't know what she meant, but, it sounded bad. So it just made things worse, but it let me know that it wasn't okay to be that way, to be outwardly anxious. And so I became very high functioning in my anxiety, which is usually where I'm working with people. And so I do it in a way that helps them to literally rewire their brain and works with the subconscious. So we actually get to the root of the problem instead of just staying on the surface.
Okay, so you have worked with clients for over 37 years. So, what shift or breakthrough do they mostly commonly experience under your coaching?
So one client in particular came to me, and she had been trying in her business for a very long time to make it successful. And in our work together, what we came to realize very quickly was that her anxiety was holding her back, which is not unusual. A lot of high achievers, which are your entrepreneurs, right? Your entrepreneurs, your CEOs, your, upper admin kind of people have high functioning anxiety. And while a lot of them believe that that's what gives them their edge and makes them successful because they're very driven, it actually works against them because it takes a lot of time and energy, and it makes them very perfectionistic, and it also causes them often to procrastinate on things and not be willing to take those leaps forward for fear of being called out with imposter syndrome or something like that. That really limits people. So this particular client, once we did our work for a little bit, we were able to rewire some of her limiting beliefs in her subconscious and help her to what I call leash the anxiety. So that allowed her to be in control of her anxiety for the most part. And that confidence that she gained from that then translated into her really moving forward into her business. In fact, she just started a second business. I heard from her not long ago. She wanted to share the news with me, and she's doing great. I don't know what else to say about that, but she's really doing amazing in both of her businesses.
That's awesome. So, I think when someone have anxiety, they stop taking action, right? They stop making progress.
Yes, exactly. There comes to be, like, I call it a ceiling, where people feel like they can achieve this much, but no further because they've got some kind of belief, or just their anxiety is so distracting for them that they can't move past a certain point in their work. And it's very, very frustrating. And unfortunately, they tend to blame themselves for it, but they're blaming the wrong thing. They're not understanding that it's really their nervous system that doesn't feel safe enough to move forward.
So, how does rewiring the brain actually works?
So basically, your brain changes every time you're exposed to something new, right? So if you go to see a movie or read a book or listen to this podcast and it's got new ideas in it, of course, that literally changes your brain wiring. And people with anxiety either start out like I did with a high level of anxiety or a propensity for it, and then the experiences in their lives can compound it. And so their brain literally, the part of the brain that is responsible to great extent for the fight or flight response and the stress response, you're probably familiar with that one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. That part of your brain literally becomes larger because you're using it more if you're an anxious person. So when we're experiencing new things, we change the brain. So we do a lot of different skills in the moment and during the day that allow them to be more calm And when you're more calm, when you can take control of your nervous system and soothe it, then you start to rewire it. And I also do some hypnotherapy, which helps us to really take big leaps very quickly and allowing people to make huge changes. So your
Mhm.
foundation becomes one of calm instead of one of stress and anxiety.
Can you walk us through what you mean by when you said working from inside out?
Mhm. Yeah. So your subconscious mind is kind of the innermost, right? And it actually controls about 95% of what we think, feel, say, do, decide. But most of us are unaware of what's happening in our subconscious. And partly because it's somewhat irrational, our subconscious forms between birth and puberty.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have the ability to analyze or to filter information out. It takes everything at face value. So if someone says to you, you're not good enough, or they imply that, or you get the idea that it's not safe to be seen, which is a lot of what I run into with my clients, beliefs like that, then those get embedded in your subconscious and they limit you. They keep you from going, however far you want to go. They stop it there. And so by working with that and your nervous system, because your subconscious appears to be your body, so working with the body itself and your nervous system, we're actually getting to the root of anxiety. Because one of the problems with anxiety, and I learned this myself, and this is how I developed this system, was from experimenting on myself. And I became a psychotherapist in the process and a coach and did all of these things to try to deal with my own anxiety and my clients. Most anxiety treatments stay on the surface, so they only address your thoughts or your behaviors. And you have to get into the root of what's causing that, or it never actually works, or it works for a few weeks and then it fails.
So I think to do that, there'll be a lot of, like back and forth question answering you do with your clients.
Not as much as you might think, actually. I'm much more skills based. I try to teach them skills that are going to be really useful for them in their day-to-day lives. That's the first thing we do. The first session is I teach them a lot of different skills that are actually proven to soothe and calm the nervous system. And there's some things that like EFT or tapping, I don't know if you've heard of that. A lot of people are familiar with it, but okay, system based on acupressure.
Okay, okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
we're yeah,
acupressure, yeah.
okay. Yeah, exactly. And so that has been literally shown to rewire the brain just doing that. And the hypnotherapy that I do also has been shown to rewire the brain very quickly. So we can get to these issues. You don't have to even know all of what your issues are. We do spend some time talking to discover some of that, but just by rewiring your nervous system to be more calm and helping you to understand what anxiety really is, what it's doing in your life, it actually serves a purpose, a useful purpose, but not when you're living in a high level of it. That's when it starts to hold you back.
Okay. By the way, like, do subliminal binary beats, affirmation, all these kind of things, like, do they work?
Diurnal beats have been shown to bring your brain waves into a more calm state, but they don't last if you're not listening to them all the time. So I use a lot of bilateral stimulation, which has been proven to change the brain and to calm you down and help you to work through some of your issues. I do some other specialized things. One of them is brain spotting, which is similar to EMDR. It's very effective in changing your brain and how you feel overall.
Okay, okay. So you had your own life experience with trauma, perfectionism, and burnout. So looking back, what do you wish you know earlier that you know now?
That's such a great question. I wish I had known that anxiety was not necessarily a permanent state. I thought it was, for a long time, I believed it was a permanent state in my life. It was just how I was wired, who I was. And I was quite a bit older before I discovered that no, we can change our brain. We can change our baseline so that we're not really stuck in it. That, what we're trying to do really is just shift it over a bit,
Mhm.
because we need a moderate level of anxiety to live our best life. Except that we don't call it anxiety then, we call it being alert or being aware.
Okay. You said like fight or flee, right?
Mhm.
You mentioned fight and flee. Okay. So for our listeners who don't know about that, can you tell them like how does that relate to anxiety?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes it's called the stress response, but also the fight, flight, and freeze response. What happens is at the beginning of the day, let's say you wake up in the morning and stress starts to occur to you, even if it's a pretty good day. We live in a day and age where we're kind of bombarded with stimulation all the time, between our phones and our TVs and just all the things we have to do, and then traffic if we're traveling, and kids if we're taking care of those, or getting ourselves ready and out the door. So the stress starts to build up. And the farther the stress goes in building up in our system, at some point it tips over, and the brain doesn't understand that the stress is from normal everyday things, that we're not really in danger. And it goes into fight or flight response, which is a system that the brain and body have to deal with threats to survival, like being chased by a tiger or something like that. A lot of people spend a lot of time in that continuum of fight or flight, especially my clients who are anxious. They spend a lot of time kind of in those beginning throes. And if you don't do something to interrupt this pattern, you just keep increasing all day long. It's very hard on the brain and body, but it really, really compounds the anxiety. And so the techniques that I'm using with my clients help them to get out of fight or flight response very quickly.
Okay.
So that's part of the rewiring, and it's the basic treatment of changing your life and getting past your anxiety.
Okay.
Also helps you to just deal with the world.
Yeah, of course. So, what's the first step someone can take to begin working with you?
So the easiest way is to reach me either by email or on my website. My website is shelleymartinez.com, Shelley Martinez. And my email is shelley@shelleymartinez.com, because I work with clients typically one-on-one right now, although I'm planning to open a group program soon. And so we have to actually meet first for a little bit to see if we're a good match, to make sure that I can actually help them, because I don't take on clients that I don't believe I can help.
Okay. So, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think I would really like people to understand that anxiety is a normal response to a crazy kind of world. We all live in hustle culture. We're all very busy. We've got a lot going on. And so even though that's a normal response, staying in that high level of anxiety is not good or healthy for us. It impedes our productivity. It keeps us from really reaching our goals and dreams. So it's not the edge that it's been made out to be. It really isn't. And that they don't have to stay stuck in that. That actually, when you remove the anxiety, the high functioning level of it, not remove it entirely, that actually makes you more prosperous, gives you more time, energy, freedom, helps your productivity to boost and go all kinds of places, and to do so much more in your life that makes you happier.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so Sally, that was awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.